Imagine throwing like a week-long destination wedding. You've invited your entire community, you've spent months preparing, and on day two, your caterer completely runs out of drinks.
Oh, man, yeah. That is a total nightmare.
Right. Your guests are furious. But instead of just, I don't know, leaving bad reviews online, they literally drag you to small claims court and sue you for ruining the celebration.
It sounds like a modern Bridezilla reality show, honestly. But in the first century, a bad party wasn't just a faux pas. It was a crippling social disaster
Yeah.
and an actual legitimate legal liability.
Which completely changes the way we have to look at one of the most famous ancient texts in history. Today, we are taking a deep dive into the Gospel of John, chapter 2.
Yeah, the famous story of Jesus turning water into wine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And our mission today is to shatter that familiar, sanitized Sunday school version of this narrative. We want to decode the massive historical, cultural, and symbolic layers buried underneath all of that.
There is so much more going on there than just a magic trick at a party.
Right. We're going to explore how ancient Jewish ritual purification laws, heavy stone jars, and a ticking cosmic clock reveal this massive paradigm shift from rigid law to abundant grace.
It really is a complete shift in how humans relate to the divine.
So whether you are a history buff, a theology enthusiast, or just someone who has ever desperately wished you could get some wasted time back in your own life, this deep dive is going to fundamentally change how you read this ancient text.
I am so excited for this one.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we can get to the miracle itself, we really have to look at the pressure cooker of the environment. The text opens by noting this event happens on the third day.
Yeah, and to a modern reader, that just sounds like casual scheduling, right? Like, oh, it was a Tuesday.
Right, just a random detail.
But to a first-century Jewish reader, that phrase lands with massive significance. You have to go all the way back to the book of Genesis.
Oh, to the creation story.
Exactly. God pronounced 7 blessings over the days of creation. But the third day of creation, it was the only day to receive a double blessing. God literally said it was good twice on the third day.
Oh, wow, I never caught that.
Yeah. Because of that ancient tradition, the third day became the absolute most favored, culturally auspicious day for Jewish weddings. So the author is signaling right from the jump, pay attention, this is a doubly blessed occasion.
It sets the stage for this ultimate high-stakes event, because a first-century wedding in the ancient Near East, it wasn't a quick afternoon ceremony followed by cake.
No, not at all.
These were massive, week-long, town-wide social events. I mean, the entire village basically shut down to celebrate. And at the absolute center of this multi-day festival was wine.
Yeah, it wasn't just a beverage you served with dinner. It was the cultural symbol of joy, hospitality, and divine provision.
So running out is a huge deal.
Oh, without wine, the joy is dead. In an honor and shame-based culture, failing your guests on this level was a devastating humiliation. It was the kind of thing that would follow a family for generations.
Just absolute social ruin.
And the consequences extended way beyond village gossip, too. We have ancient historical evidence showing that a groom could literally be taken to court by his own guests.
Wait, really? Sued by the guests?
Sued by his own friends and family. It was essentially a breach of an implicit social contract. If you failed to adequately provide for the feast, you were legally liable for the financial and emotional damages of ruining the celebration.
So the panic happening behind the scenes must have been just suffocating. The groom is facing social exile and potential bankruptcy.
Exactly. The pressure is immense.
And this intense, very human emergency is what prompts Mary, the mother of Jesus, to intervene.
Ah.
But she doesn't ask for a specific magic trick, right? She just walks up to him and states the terrifying reality. She says, they have no wine.
She just lays this devastating cultural disaster entirely at his feet.
But then Jesus responds with a phrase that sounds incredibly cryptic, almost, dismissive to our modern ears. He says, "Woman, what does this have to do with me? My hour has not yet come."
Yeah, it definitely feels like a harsh brush off.
He's essentially saying, look, not my party, not my problem.
It reads that way for sure, but the phrase "my hour" is actually the hinge on which the entire Gospel of John turns.
Really? Just those 2 words?
Yeah, because in this ancient text, the word hour is never used casually. Whenever Jesus uses that word, he is referring to a highly specific appointment, the moment of his death, resurrection, and glorification.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So by saying, my hour has not yet come, he is shifting the focus entirely. He's looking at this local social emergency and pointing to a cosmic timeline. It is a signal to the reader that an eternal stopwatch has started ticking.
That is wild. It makes you think about how often we sit in our own lives waiting for something to happen, panicking about our own timelines and emergencies.
While completely missing the cosmic timing at play.
Yeah, exactly. We want the quick fix right now, but there's a much larger clock ticking in the background. Yet, even with that cryptic response about his hour, Mary doesn't miss a beat.
She doesn't panic at all.
No, she just turns to the servants and says, do whatever he tells you.
She completely trusts the timeline. And the instructions Jesus gives the servants are where the story moves from a catering rescue into a profound theological statement. He targets 6 stone water jars sitting nearby.
Wait, hold on. I need to stop you there. Because the logic of this scene is just wild to me. Jesus is about to cater a high-end wedding, but he tells them to use the stone washing jars.
Yeah, the purification jars.
That's like a waiter serving vintage champagne out of an industrial mop bucket. I mean, these jars held 20 to 30 gallons each. Why on earth wouldn't he use proper empty wineskins or wooden casks? Why target the washing sinks?
What's fascinating here is the sheer weight of what those stone vessels represented. During the 1st century, the Jewish purity system governed almost every single aspect of daily life.
Okay, so it wasn't just about hygiene.
Right? It was spiritual. If a clay pot became ritually unclean, say a dead insect fell into it, Levitical law stated it had to be completely shattered. Clay absorbs impurity, but stone does not. Stone was considered completely immune to ritual impurity.
So these stone jars were a serious investment for a household. They were permanent fixtures of the religious law.
They were the literal apparatus of ancient Jewish ritual purity. Every time a guest arrived from the dusty, chaotic marketplace, they washed their hands using the water from these specific jars.
It sounds exhausting, honestly.
It was. Every time someone prepared food they washed, it was an exhausting, never-ending cycle of external cleansing to try to make oneself acceptable to God.
Wow.
Those jars were the physical embodiment of a religious system that had been in place for thousands of years.
So he intentionally bypassed the empty wine casks to use the culturally loaded sinks. And the text goes out of its way to tell us there were exactly 6 of them. And in ancient literature, specifically Jewish literature, numbers are practically an entirely different language, right?
Oh, absolutely. To the ancient Jewish mind, numbers carried massive theological weight. 7 is the number of perfection.
Right, completeness.
Yeah, completeness, the Sabbath rest. It is the number of God. 6, inherently, is 1 short of 7.
So it's lacking something.
Exactly. It symbolizes insufficiency. It represents imperfection, human striving, and a system that never quite reaches the finish line.
So targeting 6 jars isn't just about volume. It's a massive symbolic critique. It represents how the thousands of years of Old Testament law, the endless external ritualistic washings, were ultimately incomplete.
They just couldn't get the job done.
The law could scrub the dirt off your hands, but it couldn't cleanse what actually needed to be cleaned on the inside. It always fell one step short.
It was an exhausting checklist that never offered true rest. So Jesus tells the servants to fill those 6 jars of incomplete external purification to the very brim with water.
And then he changes it.
Yeah. As the scholar Leon Morris beautifully summarized it, this is the moment Jesus changes the water of Judaism into the wine of Christianity.
Oh, I like that.
He takes the water of the rigid law and transforms it into the water of the gospel. He completely overwrites the old system using its own vessels.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the transformation is one thing, but the sheer volume of what he produces is staggering. If you do the math on 6 jars holding 20 to 30 gallons each,
It's a massive amount of liquid.
we are talking about 120 to 180 gallons of wine. That is roughly 1,000 modern bottles of wine. Keep in mind, this party has already been going on for days.
Right, they're not starting from scratch here.
The guests do not need 1,000 more bottles of wine. He doesn't just bail out the groom with a just enough miracle to avoid the lawsuit.
No, the extravagance is the entire point. He gives them a completely unnecessary, lavish surplus.
Overwhelming abundance.
Yes, this vast quantity of wine symbolizes the fundamental nature of the grace he is introducing. It brilliantly contrasts the strict, measured, and ultimately insufficient ritual washing of the law with the overwhelming abundance of the new covenant.
Because the law is so exact.
Exactly. The law measures out exact requirements. But grace floods the room with more than you could possibly ever consume.
It is the ultimate flex of abundance. But it wasn't just the sheer amount of wine that shocked everyone in the room. It was the quality.
Right, the taste was unbelievable.
And the way that quality was achieved reveals a superpower over the laws of physics and time itself.
We see this through the reaction of the master of the festival. He was basically the head wedding planner for the event. He tastes the wine, pulls the bridegroom aside, and is absolutely baffled.
Because normally you hide the cheap stuff for later.
Exactly. He says everyone serves the good wine first, and then after the people are drunk, he freely serves the poor wine. But you have kept the good wine until now.
Which is crazy because if you think about the actual science of winemaking, creating complex, high-quality oath and slow fermentation in a barrel.
It's undeniably the product of time.
Right? That level of quality is strictly the product of time.
You cannot rush biology. But Jesus did. In a single fraction of a second, he produced a vintage so incredibly complex that the master of the festival assumed it had been hidden away in a cellar for half a decade.
That's just insane.
Jesus bypassed the soil, the vines, the harvest, the yeast, and the barrel. He essentially collapsed 5 years of slow biological fermentation into a single instant.
It's like planting a tiny acorn in the ground and watching a massive 100-year-old oak tree burst out of the soil in the blink of an eye. He didn't just manufacture a beverage in those stone jars. He hacked the universe. He manufactured time.
It completely proves that he isn't bound by the natural processes that govern our reality. He is the author of time, and time is his to control. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, there is a second, even deeper theological layer hidden in what the master of the festival said.
You mean when he said, "You have kept the good wine until now"?
Exactly. That phrase is a massive structural hint about the shape of the entire biblical narrative.
How so?
Think about the bookends of the story. Jesus begins his public ministry right here at a wedding feast, bringing unparalleled joy. If you fast forward to the very end of the biblical texts, to the book of Revelation, chapter 19, verse 9,
Final feast.
yeah, it declares that all of human history will culminate at the marriage supper of the Lamb.
So the entire arc of redemption is framed by a wedding.
Jesus is depicted as the ultimate bridegroom, and humanity is the bride. This miracle in John 2 isn't just a random act of kindness, it's a preview of the end of the world. The overarching theme of the text is that with God, the best is always being saved for last. The good wine is kept until now.
That just reframes everything. Because if Jesus can manufacture time, if he can bypass years of slow, painful growth and produce something deeply beautiful in an instant, the implications for us are massive.
They really are.
It takes this high-level theology of water and wine and brings it right down to the pavement of our everyday lives.
It directly addresses the concept of regret. There is a powerful promise found in the Old Testament book of Joel, chapter 2, verse 25. God says, "I will restore to you the years that the swarming locusts have eaten."
The locust years. Man, we all have them. You don't have to be a theologian to understand the crushing weight of wasted time.
No, it's a universal human experience. You might be looking back at a decade lost to an addiction or a toxic relationship that trained your youth.
Or a career dead end you poured your heart into.
Exactly. Or simply a series of bad choices. You hit a certain age and feel the visceral panic that the best years were eaten by the locusts. And the cruelest part about time is that no amount of money or effort can buy it back.
You just can't rewind the clock to do it over.
You can't.
So what does this all mean? How does a first-century wedding apply to the listeners sitting in their car right now, dwelling on a wasted decade?
It offers the ultimate comfort for anyone with a difficult, checkered, or painful past. Because if the God who turned water into wine controls time itself, then he is not just a cosmic insurance adjuster.
Right, he's not just writing you a check to cover the yield you lost to the locusts.
He sits entirely outside of the constraints of time, which means he can actually compress the blessings, the growth, and the joy of an entire lifetime into whatever new seasons you have left.
Wow.
He can collapse 5 years of fermentation into a single second. The locusts do not get the final word on your story. God can do more with your life in a single surrendered moment than you could manufacture in a lifetime of frantically trying to catch up.
That is so powerful. This text is actively inviting you to view your own story as unwritten and fully redeemable. The wasted years aren't the end of the timeline.
This raises an important question for you, the listener. Will you respond to this invitation with a transformed heart? Will you trust the architect who controls the clock?
Because
He can make up for lost time.
Because the promise embedded in this ancient wedding story is that your final chapter is yet to be written. Time is absolutely no barrier for a God who can compress decades of profound blessing into an instant.
We have covered incredible ground today in this deep dive. We stepped into a socially and legally disastrous first century wedding on the doubly blessed third day.
Such a high-stakes environment.
Yeah, we looked at how those 6 heavy stone jars, the exhausting, imperfect apparatus of ritual purity, were repurposed to signal the end of the rigid law.
Shifting from water to wine.
Exactly. We explored how 180 gallons of instant time-bending vintage wine demonstrated an entirely new era of lavish, unnecessary, over-the-top grace. And we saw how a God who can bend physics and manufacture time can restore the years the locusts have eaten in our own lives, comforting our deepest regrets. It is a stunning journey, from the exhaustion of external rules to the overwhelming relief of unearned grace. It completely changes how we are meant to view our pasts and our futures.
It really does. But before we wrap up today, I want to leave you with one final, incredibly provocative detail to mull over. Think about the most famous line in this entire story, the grand, sweeping declaration that the best has been kept until now.
Yeah, it's such an iconic phrase.
But that profound truth wasn't spoken by Jesus. It wasn't spoken by Mary, who initiated the whole thing, or by the disciples who were watching. It was spoken by the master of the festival, a man who had absolutely no idea what he had just witnessed.
It was completely in the dark.
He drank the wine, he tasted the ultimate time-bending grace, but he was completely blind to its origin. He honestly just thought the groom had a secret stash in the cellar.
He experienced the miracle without ever seeing the miracle worker.
Exactly. So as you go about your day, I want you to look at the abundant, unearned wine in your own life. Look at the undeserved moments of joy, the narrow escapes, the sudden provisions, and the grace you experience every single day.
The things we just take for granted.
Yeah. And wonder how often are we, just like that master of the festival, enjoying the miraculous results of God's grace without ever realizing a profound miracle just happened right behind us. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning, keep learning, and remember, your final chapter is yet to be written.
Thanks for joining us on this hour on the Archive Hour. Join us on our next hour as we bring you more adventures from the Bible.